Babies are pretty much universally cute, but have you ever wondered why some moms in the Middle Ages would tie their babies to their back? A lot of people think that this was done for convenience or out of necessity, but it's not as simple as that. In fact, there were some interesting reasons as to why they did this. So here's why medieval mothers tied their babies to their backs. Welcome back to the channel. It's me and you're watching this channel. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos. Back in the day, baby carriers were not as advanced as they are today. There weren't any fancy slings, ergonomic carriers, or wraps to carry your kids around in. And so medieval mothers had to improvise. One way that they would carry their children was by strapping them to their backs. This was usually done with a long piece of fabric that would go over the child's body and under the mother's dress. The baby would be swaddled tightly to prevent them from moving around too much and potentially falling out. But this method wasn't just used for convenience or necessity. There were actually some interesting reasons behind it. One reason why medieval mothers strapped their babies to their backs is because it was a way to keep them close to their bodies. This made it easier to breastfeed on the go. In the Middle Ages, breastfeeding was the only way to feed a baby, and mothers would often carry their babies with them wherever they went. By keeping the baby strapped to their back, the mother could easily nurse the child without having to set them down or lay them in a cradle. This method also helped to keep the baby warm. In the Middle Ages, it was common for families to live in multi-generational households. This meant that there were often a lot of people living in close quarters. There was a lot of privacy, and carrying a baby on your back made it easy to shield the child from the elements. In addition, this also kept the baby away from other people who might want to grab or poke at them while the mother worked. Another reason why medieval mothers preferred to carry their babies on their backs was because it left their hands free to do other things. In the Middle Ages, women were primarily responsible for domestic work such as cooking, cleaning, and taking care of other children. By having their hands free, mothers could continue to work while still keeping an eye on their youngest child. They could also carry other items in their hands, such as food or supplies for the family. It was common for families to be poor in the Middle Ages, and so anything that could be reused or repurposed was important. Strapping a baby to your back allowed a mother to use her hands for other tasks, making her more efficient.
Oh.
While the practice of strapping babies to your back may seem strange to us now, it was a practical solution to the problems faced by medieval mothers. It's important to remember that they didn't have access to the same technology or conveniences that we do today. Instead, they had to rely on their ingenuity and resourcefulness to find solutions that worked for them. One way that medieval mothers would carry their babies was in a woven sling. This type of carrier is similar to a backpack and was made from a piece of fabric that was folded and sewn together. The baby would be placed inside the sling, and the mother would wear it on her back. The sling was adjustable, so that the mother could make it tight enough to keep the baby secure. Woven slings were practical because they were able to be worn all day. They were comfortable and left a mother's hands free. They were also relatively safe as the baby was well supported and protected from the elements. Plus, the sling could also be used to carry other items such as food or supplies. Another way that medieval mothers carried their babies was by putting them in a basket or a cradle that was attached to their back. This method was common in rural areas where women needed to carry their babies with them while working in the fields. The basket or cradle would be made from wood or wicker and would be lined with a soft material such as cloth or straw. The baby would be placed inside, and then the mother would either carry it in her hands or attach it to her back with a rope or a strap. This method was less common than using a sling, but it was still popular in some areas. Basket and cradle carriers were practical because they were able to hold more than one baby at a time. They were also useful for carrying other items while working in the fields. However, they were very comfortable to wear all day, and they were indeed very safe, as the baby was as well supported or protected. A fun fact about these types of carriers is that they are still used today in some parts of the world. In many developing countries, women still carry their babies on their backs in order to free up their hands for other tasks. These countries include places like Nepal, India, China, and Peru. Some of the carriers used in these countries are similar to the ones used in the Middle Ages. This shows how practical and useful these carriers were, and how they continue to be relevant today. Now let us talk about what life was like for a baby being carried on a mother's back during the Middle Ages. As we mentioned earlier, babies were typically swaddled tightly to keep them from moving around too much. This meant that the baby's arms and legs were wrapped up tightly, which may not sound very comfortable. But this was actually a common practice in many cultures throughout history. Swaddling helps a baby feel more secure and reduces the startle reflex, which can help them sleep longer stretches. It also keeps their arms and legs warm and prevents them from getting tangled up. While it may seem strange to us now, swaddling is still a common practice today. In fact, many parents swear by it as a way to soothe their babies and help them sleep better. It's also important to remember that not all babies were carried on their mother's back. In fact, it was more common for them to be carried by someone else, such as a grandmother or a hired servant. This gave the mother a break from carrying the baby and allowed her to focus on other tasks. During the Middle Ages, it was common for families to live in extended households with several generations living together. This meant that there were often other people available to help take care of the baby while the mother worked. In addition, it was also common for families to hire servants to help with household tasks, such as cooking and cleaning. Sometimes these servants were given the responsibility of carrying the baby on their back while they worked. So while it may seem like all medieval mothers carried their babies on their backs, this was not the case. It was actually more common for them to be carried by someone else, such as a grandmother or a hired servant. Overall, carrying babies on your back during the Middle Ages was a common practice. It was done for a variety of reasons, including the need to keep the baby close, and the need to keep their hands free, and the lack of other options for carrying a baby. While it may seem strange to us now, it was a practical solution to the problems faced by medieval mothers. It's important to remember that they didn't have access to the same technology or conveniences that we do today. Instead, they had to rely on their ingenuity and resourcefulness to find solutions that worked for them. Carrying a baby on your back is still common in some parts of the world today. This shows how practical and useful this method was and how it continues to be relevant even now. What do you think about this topic? Why do you think medieval mothers carried their babies on their backs? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss any of my videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.